Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 74 Talkoffamepod with your host, Kylie, and I'm so excited to have on singer-songwriter Connolly. Thanks so much for calling, Kara.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Of course, me too. So you are a singer-songwriter. What made you want to start doing that and being in this industry, basically?
You know, I've always been intrigued and interested in the entertainment industry since I was a little girl. You know, I loved, I would create fake bands and I would go to the park and I'd stand on the benches and I would sing for people in the neighborhood, even though they probably didn't want me to at that point. But you know, I've always been a big fan of music and films, and I always knew I wanted to do something in entertainment. So when I was younger, I got into acting, and then I was always writing songs on the side, you know, just as a hobby. And so when I was kind of waiting for auditions, or when I was in math class, or when I was whatever, like I would be writing songs into a notebook, or lyrics or ideas. So for me, I've just always been so drawn to it that I kind of knew I had to go after my dreams, because I feel like it's so important to chase what you really want, as opposed to, you know, settle for something that someone tells you should want. And so I kind of just was like, you know what, I'm actually going to go for it and just do, you know, go after it. And I don't want to have any, you know, doubts or regrets of not having done something that I really wanted to do. So yeah, I just have always loved writing, always loved singing. So that's kind of what caused me to walk down this crazy path.
I love it. Like, I was like same exact way. Like, ever since I was young, I always knew that I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. I just knew from a young age. But like when I was young, I was always very shy and I had anxiety. So I was like, I can't do that. Like, people that are shy are not supposed to be in the entertainment industry. Just kind of not a thing that at that time I thought, oh, it's kind of not a thing.
And I would never think you were shy. That's so funny, because you don't seem like that at all. You come, you know, I mean, you have a podcast and you talk to so many people and you really put yourself out there. So it's amazing.
Yeah, and like people always say that to me, but they'd be like, "You are shy." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, I was when I was young. As time went on, I kind of grew out, go and kind of grew out of it as time went on. But like I just knew, I didn't know what exactly I wanted to be. I just knew I wanted to be in the entertainment industry. It's kind of new, and so like every time I was always loved watching television, music, everything. Like every couple minutes, I basically put earphones in and watch and listen to music, like no matter what, or just sit down my free time and watch television on Netflix or something. So I'm always doing something, and every time and during the pandemic, I was like, I'm bored. So I'm gonna ask my mom a couple of questions, see which parent knew me better. Because I was like, why not? Now I think about it, like now it's kind of stupid. But like as time went on, I'm like, why not to start a podcast and just start some things? And I legit was asking my parents questions without even knowing that would be a journalist type of thing almost a year later. And
wow. So did you do a podcast with them where they were both talking to you in the podcast?
What was
Did you have a podcast with both of your parents in the podcast as well?
No, I just kind of did like a word thing, just have a questions and just see what they'll give me answers, write down the answers.
Oh, that's fun. Which one won?
Mostly my mom. 100%.
That makes sense, I think.
Yeah, I think moms know their daughters a little more better.
They do. You're just around your mom so much that it's, you know, I was thinking that the other day, that I love both my parents so much, and I'm so close to my dad and I'm really close to my mom. But whenever I pick up the phone and call, I always call my mom.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like instinct, you know, just from when you're young, like when you go pick, you know, if you want to get picked up somewhere, you're always calling your mom, or at least that was me.
Yeah, I'm always like, every time I want to go somewhere or something, I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, please take me this place or take me that place. It's like I'm always dependent on one parent or the other.
Yeah, depends on the day. Yeah. That makes sense. So
yeah, and so you said like you listened to like a lot of music like growing up. Like, did you have any favorite artists that you kind of listened to when you were young? Or
I did. You know, I really got into so I've always really loved Taylor Swift, which I know that's not unique to me. I feel like a lot of people say that, but I was I was a fan of hers from like the very first song she ever put out. You know, I heard it on, I think it was like a music shuffling service, kind of like Pandora, but I don't know if it was Pandora, but I had heard one of her very first singles and I was like, who's this? And I just loved the storytelling of it. And I immediately was so drawn to her as an artist. And I've, you know, ended up following her career from her first album until now. I really got into her, especially in her second album, Fearless. Because I was like, ooh, this is a little more pop. And I was kind of drawn to that. And it, you know, and it felt so real and so vulnerable and just sort of like, it didn't feel like there were a bunch of guys writing these songs for her or older women. It felt like it was her, you know, going through that at that moment, which I think was a change for someone as like a young listener. Cause I was so used to hearing songs on the radio that had like 10 writers on it that were all different, you know, ages. And then you start listening to this girl who wrote the, you know, the song herself. And it very much feels like a girl in high school, you know? So I think that I really respected that and resonated with that. So she was definitely a huge influence of mine, but I also loved Shania Twain. I don't know if you're familiar with Shania Twain, but like, she's like you know, also kind of fun and storytelling driven country, and I think like there was something about the sassiness and the like the girl power kind of feminist like you know perspective that Shania Twain took towards things that I really resonated with as well. I listened to a lot of Madonna growing up.
Oh yeah,
like,
I love Madonna.
Yeah. And my dad had a lot of like kind of like disco music that he would listen to. So I would listen to disco music from him. And then of course, like all the boy bands, you know, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, whatever. Now it's One Direction and whoever else.
Yeah, like I feel like everyone's into boy bands nowadays. Like I'm into like a lot of boy bands now, and back then I was into for everyone.
Yeah, I feel like boy bands is such a thing. Especially here in America, I feel like it sounds like from the people I've talked to, like we get so into, you know, once you have like your classic boy band here or whatever, it's like we get so into them and are so supportive. And I think it's because there's like a different, you know, character for each you can like one of them, and you know, there's a different type of person for all different walks of life. So I think like boy bands really attract all sorts of different listeners, you know, because you might see yourself in one of those people and then you might not care so much about the other three, but you just are like super drawn to, you know, whoever.
And like I'm so big into like boy bands like One Direction, Jonas Brothers, Backstreet Boys, even New Kids on the Block, and they're old. They're like an oldie band. And recently, like a couple weeks ago, my mom was like, I know, she's like, hi, we should go to see the Backstreet Boys or something. I'm like, you going to a concert? Like she's not really like a concert person.
Yeah, you're like, you're gonna go see the Backstreet Boys?
Yeah, I'm down if we can, but like I never kind of heard her say that because I always wanted to see the Backstreet Boys performance. I heard they were really good. So I'm like,
yeah, are they in Vegas? Is that where she wanted to see them? I don't know. Are they doing
I think they're going on a like world tour.
Oh wow. Okay. They're still together. I can't believe that they've stuck it out, you know, they're still together.
Yeah, me too. It's absolutely crazy and everything.
Yeah, so long. It's amazing that they've like been able to do that. I feel like so many others end up breaking up and they don't really ever get back together.
Yeah.
Even when they say that they, you know, have intentions to, they oftentimes don't. So
yeah. And so in 2019, you were nominated for 2 Hollywood Music and Media Awards for Best Independent Music Video and Best Message Song Social Impact. How do you feel being nominated for those?
It was such a cool moment because I had, you know, at that point, I had never been nominated for anything pretty much in my life. So I was like, wow, I can't believe that something I did is being recognized, especially by my peers in the music industry. People who know what it's like and know what it's like to go make a record and how hard it is to finish a music video and like all the little things that go into that you don't even, you know, realize when you watch the finished product. It was really awesome to have, you know, people who do understand that process nominate my record and songs and things that they you know that they loved. So I was like, that's really cool to hear. really validating. It made me feel happy. It was a ton of fun to go to the awards too. I ended up meeting some really cool like music industry icons, people that I listened to growing up as a kid. I got to sit next to and talk to and walk the red carpet. And so there was something really cool about that of like, oh, wow, I'm now, this is just kind of my community in a way now. And that was definitely really interesting and you know, powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Like, did you like when you went to that awards, did anyone kind of stick out to you the most that you met that kind of was like, oh my God, I can't believe that person's here. Like, oh my God.
Well, it was more like, I don't know if you would know who this is, but there's a songwriter named Diane Warren who's written
Oh
like
yeah.
tons of hits throughout time, throughout like the last several decades.
Yeah.
She was being honored that night. So she had received like, I forget what the award was called, but it was like one of those kind of honorary lifetime achievement kind of awards. And so she was there, and that was really cool because I was like, wow, you know, that's somebody I totally admire as a songwriter, who's been you know, because I'm such a songwriter at heart. And I was like, wow, she's written like some of the most like, she's written songs that will stand the test of time, you know, which is so incredible. And like, that's such a dream for myself and most songwriters, right? So she was really cool to see. And then also I ended up chatting with, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Matchbox 20, but they're like, they're like a, I think they were more of a 90s band. I don't know, don't quote me on that, but they're like sort of like an alt rock kind of band with Rob Thomas leading, singing it, and they're really talented. And I grew up listening to a lot of their songs. And the guitarist from Matchbox 20, I ended up like sitting by and talking to, and we became friends. And then he ended up having me on his podcast. And so like talking to me about my music. And I was like, this is so crazy because like they have a couple songs like 3 a.m. and Unwell and a couple things that like I grew up listening to, and I was singing, like would sing in my car. So those were kind of, I would say, two cool moments where I was like, wow, this is kind of crazy in a way.
That's really awesome. That's like my dream. Seriously, that's really my dream.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah, fingers crossed. There's always hope. But like,
yeah, it will.
And so you recently came out with a song called Roses, which I absolutely love so much. But what kind of drew you to kind of writing that?
Yeah, you know, Roses is all about slowing down and savoring the moment and recognizing the little things in life that matter sometimes the most. You know, I feel like what drew me to write the song is that I'm a really ambitious person, which I can tell you are too. But you know, when you have a lot of ambition, especially like to be in the entertainment industry and to do these things, sometimes, you know, you can get lost in that ambition as well, because you're just like, I want to succeed. I want to accomplish my dreams. I don't want to like waste time. I've come this far. I don't want to let it go, you know, now at this point. And so you get caught up in like a bit of this race, you know, to top what you last did and to succeed and all these things. And so Roses really came from like an honest reflection of just like, what, you know, I always want to write truthfully what I'm going through. I don't ever want to manufacture it. And I was like, well, you know, this is what I'm actually going through, is like having seen some success as an artist and having some things happen, but also like not being exactly where I want to be and trying to figure out how to get there. And I kind of just needed to take a second and be like, you know what, I need to just really appreciate the moment. And a lot of the verses in the song are talking about that kind of, you know, the first verse says, they tell me slow down before you break down. I'm almost there now. And it kind of has like a double meaning of like, I'm almost broken down, but I'm also almost to where I want to be. So I can't stop now. Yeah. And I wanted to tell like the contradicting sides of it, where it's like, here's that, but also, you know, I just want to feel this freeing feeling of like recognizing the moment. And also like the best things in life tend to be the smaller things. So, you know, for me, like I do love, you know, rain and feet on the pavement, hands over a fire, all these things that I kind of list in the song, like those things are actually some of the things that make me the most happy. And it has nothing to do with like how much I succeed, you know, or how productive I am or whatever. So it was kind of like a mental in like a reflection, I would say, on like my mental state, and also trying to like remind everybody, including myself, that, you know, to just savor the moment, because we forget to do that sometimes, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Like since the world is at like kind of opening up through the pandemic, the whole world shut down. It was kind of very hard for people to comprehend, and basically everyone in the entertainment industry, like they couldn't go in person to write songs. They couldn't go in person for auditions. Like you couldn't really do anything except being stuck at home. And ever since like I started a podcast, it's kind of been like difficult, to be honest, because like
Yeah.
he's like, I actually kind of want to connect with some people that I met in person, but it's very difficult because like all these people live in different states than I am, and
Yeah.
like you you can't, and based off of like the restrictions people have in their states, like you can't really do anything based off that, and you can't really socialize to anybody. And based off the entertainment industry, you basically have to socialize to get what you want. And so like for me, like I basically struggle with the whole podcast, everything. Like basically whatever you do, you struggle with it. No matter if you feel like, oh shoot, like I wish like why is my podcast not growing, or why is my platform not growing, or why is my song not getting a lot of listeners? And I'm sure everyone felt that, like why am I not getting as much listeners as I
As you
am?
want, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like
Hard.
thinking to myself, like that's kind of part of the journey and why you started. Like at first you go get like 2 views on every song or video. Then
Yeah.
it'll grow on. Especially for TikTok. If you post TikToks a lot, then that's kind of the way it grows, because TikTok is a big platform. And so it will make you kind of grow your platform, but it really is depending on your platform. Oh my god, cat. Oh my gosh, it's so cute.
So funny. He was like coming up and like wanted to see everyone. Yeah, I know. It's, you know what? It's incremental gains. You have to realize, even with something like TikTok, it is a bit of a numbers game. Like you have to post a lot, and at first you might get 2 views, 10 views, 100 views, 200, and eventually you might grow to something bigger than that. But then the next video you post might go back down to, you know, 200 views, and then the next one, and then you keep going, and eventually, you know, once you hit enough of those that people notice, like it does start to have more of an impact, right? But it is, you're you know, you're so far ahead of like what a lot of where a lot of people's mindset is at, because you're right, it's a part of the journey. It's not like a, you know, I think at one point in my life, I always knew you had to work hard. You know, I was like, you have to work hard. You've got to put yourself out there. You have to give it your all. I always knew that, and I always did that. But there was a part of me when I was, you know, maybe in high school or middle school or whatever, where probably more high school, where I was thinking like, you know, well, if I don't get this by the time I'm 15 or whatever, like, or I would compare myself, like I would look at like, you know, the success of certain actors or things, and I'd be like, well, they were first on the Disney Channel at 8 years old, so you know, so I would be like, so that means I'm how many like 6 years behind. I can't do math, I suck at math, but you know what I'm saying? Like I would sometimes have that attitude. I don't know if that was like unusual to me, because I know some of my friends in high school didn't have that kind of perspective. They were just like, you know, having fun and going to dances and like hanging out after school. Meanwhile, I'm like calculating how many years I have to become successful. But like, you know, that's not the right attitude. I didn't have the right attitude. I was, you know, I think you're right. It's a part of the journey. And as I've gone through the journey, and I've had some successes, I've had some failures, I've had all sorts of different experiences, I've had to really learn, like, no, it's the journey is where it's at. Because even once you hit some of the successes you want, it's not always everything you thought it would be. You know, it's like you're like, oh, I'm gonna hit this thing and it's gonna be so exciting, and yeah, it's exciting for a little bit, but then you go back to wanting, okay, well, what's my goal? Where do I want to be? And you always want to be at the next place. So that's kind of where a lot of those songs came from, like, you know, Roses and Something More and whatever, and especially some of my new stuff coming too. It's like that place of realizing like, no, at some point you have to just accept the journey and appreciate the journey, even when that means you're getting 2 views or whatever, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. So you were previously ranked in the Industry Insider Music Connection magazine's December issue as one of their top 4 unsigned artists, new music critics of the year. But did you ever think that would ever happen, like during your music career?
You know what? No, I didn't think it would happen with that project. You know, I think I had hoped that at some point it would happen, but I didn't think, you know, that project was like a total independent record. I made it. I wrote a lot of those songs on my bed at 2 a.m. I produced it with Bill Leffler. Shout out Bill Leffler, this one producer, but it was totally independent. So all the marketing was done myself. I was sending a bunch of like mix notes back and forth. Like I was kind of coordinating this whole thing, like the photo shoot and the vibe and the videos. And so to have them make, like, you know, they said some really nice things about the record and like the professionalism of it, like how professional the quality was and all this stuff. So that was really like encouraging, because I'm like, well, that's cool, because I just did it myself in a lot of ways with a few people, you know, a few select people who I had found and who really helped me. But yeah, I wasn't expecting that. It was really cool that they were so supportive and that they gave it such a good review. It definitely like led to some other things, and you know, I hope that I can get more of those, you know, in the future, of like things like that for future releases.
Yeah, and like I feel like you sometimes you don't really expect to be in like magazines and people to really show off your music and how much your music means until it actually happens. That's kind of how it is for me a little bit. Until if you see something about you that's someone promoting yourself and you're like, oh my God, like did I ever think this would ever happen? Probably not. Like this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool. And like the way that when people describe you in a certain way, that you're like, oh, I guess that's how they saw me, right? Or whatever, you know, but you don't always see yourself like that, because you see like the struggle and the journey and all that stuff. So when somebody says like a really positive comment or whatever, you're like, oh, wow, okay, I guess at least like that's how, you know, somebody on the outside looking in is like viewing this journey, you know?
Yeah. And so do you have anyone that you kind of look up to as like a singer-songwriter, or just kind of in general, do you have anyone that you look up to?
That's a really good question. You know, to bring it full circle, I do really still look up to Taylor Swift. I think part of the reason is because she's been able to maintain this crazy, challenging career for like over a decade now and be at the top of her game and constantly evolve. And she puts out new records that have a different sound and a different vibe, and she wears different things, and she's really, you know, made that a part of her story to like change. So, and allow her fan base to accept that change. Like, I feel like her fans have really grown with her, you know, which I think is hard to do. And I think she's really succeeded very well at it. So she's definitely one of my, you know, people that I look towards, because she has a lot of strength to her as well in the way that she handles like her business affairs. Some people don't like her. You know, I think that's okay, because you know, part of it is that she knows how to like, you know, she knows how to get what she needs done. And you know, I think people can be intimidated sometimes by powerful women, right? But I definitely admire the way she's navigated like such a crazy industry. So she's definitely like someone I look up to. I look up to Casey Musgraves. I just really like her music. I think that's, for me, it's more of her like intimacy and her storytelling, and also the way she's willing to experiment with her sound and genres. And she you know, she takes some kind of creative risks with the instrumentation in her music. So I think that's what I look up to her for. And then you know, I don't listen to a lot of her music, but I do like Lady Gaga, not so much. I guess I admire these women for different reasons, right? But like for me, for Lady Gaga, it's not so much even her music. It's not that she doesn't have amazing music. She does, of course. I tend to be drawn to more like storytelling driven kind of music than the way she writes, but I do think she's incredibly talented and amazing. But I do really admire the way she's really just like a very powerful force of nature. Like she's got her makeup brand, she's got an amazing voice, she's a songwriter, she's also an actress now who's been nominated for like the highest honors as an actress. So she's definitely been taken very seriously as an actress, which I feel like that's kind of been one of the first people in a while that we've taken really seriously as a collective society, like as an actor and a musician and a songwriter and a brand, like someone who creates, her makeup brand. Like I think she might have some other brands too, or maybe not, I don't know. But to me, like that's somebody that I really admire and look up to, because I hope to be able to do something like that where I'm able to morph into different things and go into my acting background and be in a movie or be in a TV show and like really tell a story that way, and then be able to release a record and like have it have a huge impact and be able to do a tour. And maybe at the moment I don't have any interest in a makeup brand or anything like that, but like I don't want to shut off the potential for whatever it is that I, decide to take my my creativity into. I feel like my storytelling and myself is in everything that I do. So it's not just my songs or my albums. Like I definitely think about every single aspect. And I hope that, as I grow, that my fans and others are going to be able to see like who I am through all these different kind of avenues of what I do.
Yeah, me too. Like I'm the same exact way. Like Lady Gaga. Like there's not a lot of people that are like Lady Gaga.
No.
Especially in this generation. Like people always do it one step at a time. They're like, oh, I'm just gonna stick to this. Like I'm just gonna stick to songwriting. I just don't want to do anything more. Like I'm not doing acting. Like acting's too much. But like Lady Gaga. Well, I can't say Gaga. Like I can't really say.
It's so hard to say Gaga. I know.
Yeah, and so like, there's like she can really do everything. Like everything we think of, she does. Like she has her own makeup brand. She's been in a movie. She makes songs. Like she does everything. And so like I think like she was really like nominated for one of the top things, even as an actress. Like crazy, and she's known for her songwriting and her music. It's really something we haven't seen in like a long time. Yeah, like Madonna, she was a singer, songwriter, like singer and all that stuff, an actress. But she was more known as like a little singer. So like she wasn't as kind of big into acting, but it's like she's always known as a singer. So kind of similarities to her and Madonna a little bit, in my opinion. But like I just
totally, you're right about that. And they definitely seem like they have, Lady Gaga totally seems like she has a bit of a Madonna influence, like in the way she does things, even her music, at her early music especially. But I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of people underestimated Lady Gaga, especially when she put out her first record. It was like she almost needed to do a lot to get attention, right? And then she ended up dropping all of that. I don't know if I'm as bold and as brave as Lady Gaga to like wear a meat dress on the red carpet or whatever. Like that's not so much me, but I do appreciate the kind of like ability to like see, she wanted that attention. She knew she was talented, but then eventually over time she was able to evolve that into something really real and like really respected,
Yeah.
And obviously she has the craft to back it up. Like she's got the skills and the talent and all that. But at one point people were like, this music is like just dance music and that's it, and then now she's singing with like classic legendary like Tony Bennett's and people who are like these classic kind of musicians, artists. I don't know that like 10 years ago or 12 years ago that people would have like thought she would be doing that because
I don't think they'd be like, oh, why is she as big? We never expect her to be as big as she is now. Like what happened?
Yeah.
Everything. And so the final question for the interview is like, what is some advice for younger generations that like to be able to sing a songwriter one day?
That's a good question. My advice would be to really have fun with it, to like, have fun, live your, like, get your inspiration from your life, because the best songs are written when they're truthful and when you're just yourself. I think the hardest thing is that, like, sometimes I've seen with certain artists who are trying to come up and write whatever, is that, like, it seems like they're trying to write towards what's already successful. So they're like, oh, well, this song's really big, right? Like, let me write a song like that. And not that there's anything wrong with it, but sometimes it doesn't come off as super, you know, true and authentic as if you come from your own experience and your own personal, you know, story. I think that, like, I think the success comes when you get in touch with who you really are and find out who that is and write from that place, you know, as opposed to trying to be something that already exists with somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
And so I would just say to, like, have fun, because the best way to find out who you are and be able to write like that is to, like, really get to know yourself, you know, and have fun, right? Like, go on adventures, live your life, like, because that's where the best stories come from, is like actually learning who you are and what you want to say and what kind of message you want to leave people with. And so I wouldn't get lost in it, you know. It's like just live in the moment and really, like, you know, have experiences, and the stories are going to come from there.
Yeah, exactly. I agree 100% on that. No one can have said it better. So I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was so great speaking with you.
Thank you.
You're seriously amazing. We'll definitely speak soon for sure. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. You're amazing, and I love what you're doing. So keep doing it. And if you're ever in LA, let me know, because we could do this in person too sometime, you know, where we do like a in-person interview. That would be so fun.
Yeah, that would be so amazing. I'll let you know what once I figure out some plans about coming down to LA. We'll figure something out as soon as
possible. Keep me posted. That would be amazing. And I'll definitely share this. So, like, you know, obviously tag me and I'll share everything, and let people know where they can go listen to it and watch it and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on. We'll see you soon for sure. Thanks so much.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.